do share a respect for the work of Karl Marx and a belief that his work will remain as important for the class struggles in the future as they have been in the past. And normally what we do is we have about an hour presentation.
Maybe less.
And then we have a break in which you fill up our hat with money and we make whatever announcements need to be made and proceed to either Q&A or discussion and so forth. And I think we're very fortunate today. We have Mehmet Bayram, right?
Yes.
Who is from Turkey, literally, just a couple of weeks, less than a week ago almost.
Yeah, I was there, yeah.
So he spent a good bit of time in Turkey, and was born there. And
3 months there,
so,
the last 3 months there.
So he will tell us the real scoop that we've been waiting to hear. And Raj is going to do the sergeant at arms work, keep people in line, keep the stack.
So, whatever you said, Gene.
Okay. Well, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming today. And today we are tackling a real complex issue. Yes, it is a war, but a lot more is going on behind the scenes. And I have given similar presentations before. So methodologically, I was thinking I'll update the, what I had. But instead of that, I started adding slides, as you're gonna see, and we're gonna talk, because the situation is a continuation of what happened before, but it is a new situation. So we have to understand what this Turkey's attack on Syria really means. Just to understand, and looking at the news and what is happening, yes, it's obvious that something's happened, that Turkey entered Syria, but this did not happen in a vacuum. In order to understand things, in order to understand the reality of events, we cannot just look at what is obvious. Some things happen, especially in the social realms. Things happen depending on other forces, depending on history, depending on many factors that may not be available. And so today, if I'm successful, I hope to convey to you that the things that are happening is happening under a tremendous process, a tremendous thing that's called imperialism. Without understanding how imperialism works, without understanding the forces of imperialism, without understanding the clients, without understanding the rulers, the ruling classes, their interests, it will be, the whole event is going to be reduced, oh, who shot who, and who went in, and who went out, and, So I'm going to try to not get into the details, but try to show you, maybe historically, the reasons why this happened and who is benefiting. I think I'm going to talk more than the slides. As I said, this is going to be, if we were to really delve into this is a few hours of discussion. And I'm proposing that at some point we have another session based on the material basis of the relationships of imperialism, relationships under imperialism. We could have just gone into, and I debated this with my good old friends, whether to make this based only on the materialist side, which is actually the natural gas. 21st century is not going to be the century of the oil. That's past. Oil is passé. It is still the energy and everything, but the 21st century is going to be the wars on natural gas. So that's what I'm saying, is that maybe in another session we go into the details of who did what and everything. I'm going to give some teasers here about that. Well, let's start with the entry of Turkey to Syria. It is obvious that the reason Turkey is in there, one of the main reasons, is against the Kurds, against formation of any Kurdish organization, land, so on and so forth. But it has a long history. One dimension of this is that Turkey, for a long time, as a NATO member and as a, let's say, a wannabe of Israel, wanted to play a bigger role than it already has. This has been historic. When did this change come? The reason why I'm saying that this is important is that a break point came in the Turkish history. 1923, when Turkey was formed, it was a very weak country. It barely survived. And in order to recuperate, the foreign relations were based on this understanding of the slogan of peace in the world, peace in the land. This has been the basis of Turkish foreign affairs. Don't mess with your neighbors, don't make any waves, just peace. But 1980s, Turkey experienced a test. This test was the full integration into imperialism. Full integration. Why am I saying full integration? Because Turkey needed some time to get its, act together, to be able to produce, to be able to become a force, even inside. It's kind of stable, but this had to be broken because Turkey was a, protectionist country. It had factories that belonged to the people. It had production that belonged to the people, to the government. Why? Because Turkey, after the Armenian genocide, which I will come, it is a very, very important issue we're looking at the Syria today, is that Ottomans were not capitalist. So suddenly Ottomans collapse, and together with this collapse, there's a genocide. This genocide actually targeted the only sectors in the society that were capable of creating capitalism in the land. The Armenians and the Greeks and the Jews. Reason why? Why were they the sectors? Because of the Islamic understanding, Ottomans were a closed country. It was, and because of the downfall for several centuries at that point, they were paranoid of the West that was, because due to capitalism was rising. So they chose the policies of closing in. But the only sectors inside Ottomans were the non-Muslims who had relationships to the world. And thus, they were open to the world, to new ideas. They were open to production. So most of the factories in the Ottoman Empire were owned by Armenians. Architecture, statesmanship, literature, all of these, whatever you look at as being, progressive, were in the hands of the Armenians and the Greeks and the Jews. Now a genocide happens, and you wipe these people off the face of the earth, and now you want capitalism. So the initial, Marx explains those, the initial accumulation of capital, he describes it in how it happened in Europe and everywhere. In Turkey, it happened with theft. You steal the property of the Armenians, and you give it to some Turks and task them to create capitalism. Didn't work. So the state comes in. It's a state capitalism. So state takes care of all the production that capitalists should be doing until the new capitalist class is created and they can take over. Until that time, it's a protectionist country. 1980 is that break point where the capitalists finally said, you know, I don't need you anymore. Thank you for your services, but I can do this by myself. But here's the thing, is that capitalism is not, in 1980s, the same capitalism you have in the 1840s. We have a new phenomenon. It's called imperialism. The countries that were born in the age of imperialism are born with dependencies. Turkish bourgeoisie cannot live isolated by itself. It has to integrate. So that integration comes in, but integration into imperialism comes also with a price. Show me. Look, Israel is cracking heads right and left. How come Turkey, that wants to be a leader, that wants to be, you know, out there, you have to show that you can crack heads as well. But Turkey is in that transition, peace in the country, peace in the world, and there is that, you know, now new opening, and United States has been pressuring Turkey, saying, we got to see what you can do. Don't talk to me, show me what you can do. So now, here is the time when Turkey has to change and show that it can do whatever Israel is doing. Why do I keep bringing Israel into the picture? Reason is this. Turkey has, you know, from an opposite perspective, let's say, has been looking at Israel as the model. Today, especially today with Erdoğan, they have studied exactly what Israel is doing in media, in the way that the, you know, the lobbyists are controlled in the United States, and you know, the way that they treat you know, non-Israelis, that you say, is Turkey is doing exactly the same thing from the opposite side. So that is the model that Turkey tries to be. Thank you. So with this, we have to understand that that break came in 1980, and now Turkey is in the process of proving itself. Syria is a nice target for Turkey. Reason. First of all, I'm going to get into those. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but Syria, first of all, after a series of Arab Springs, Syria was only the next in line for the you know, destruction of the society, destruction of the country. And this came at a time with the injection of the Muslim Brotherhood there, where the Turkish government also has become a religious government. So they had a natural coexistence with each other. But the destruction of Syria was known because of several reasons. One of the reasons was that, again, the natural gas. There has been projects, especially starting from 1990s, when a new guy called Putin was in charge of a corporation in Russia called Gazprom. Gazprom today is the largest corporation that has the pipelines in the world and has projects all over the world. Many of these you may not even have heard of. These includes Libya, bringing gas from Libya to Europe, or had. One of the biggest routes that was being discussed was the route that brings Iranian, Azerbaijani, Iraqi, and Syrian and Lebanese natural gas to Syria as the hub, and then distributing it through, maybe through Cyprus to Europe. So Syria suddenly became a hub of distribution, gas distribution. So that's why, one of the reasons why Turkey had to go in. The assaults, as I say there, had started even before the war. The Muslim Brotherhood, actually there is a history in Syria that, back in, I believe in 1980s, there was a insurrection by the Muslim Brotherhood. And when I visited Hama, Homs, and Damascus, the guides were keen to point to us the squares in the town where the entire Muslim Brotherhood militants were hung. So they were done away with, they were finished, but they were reintroduced to destabilize the country, recently. So there is a push for a war. There's a push for a destabilization operation. But Syria was actually several steps ahead of this. There were many coup attempts or insurrections that were planned, and Syria caught them, and that collapsed. And we're going to get into a little bit more detail on what Turkey was involved and what they did and not. And so it was a failure for United States to topple Assad. So here is one of the CIA assets, I call her, one of the, the spokesperson for CIA. And if we can put the volume up a bit, she is questioning Assad.
Okay.
No.
Oh, yes, it is. Looking for a new Syrian leader. They're talking about isolating you diplomatically and perhaps a coup d'etat or your regime crumbling.
Excellent answer. He's gonna come. Just a minute.
There are some people, sir, who say that you're the president, but maybe you're not fully in charge of those aspects. Maybe you're not in the loop. Is that possible?
But at the same time, they say that I'm a dictator.
Excellent.
If a dictator, you have full control. And if you're not a dictator, or if you're not in control, you cannot be a dictator. I think I'm not the first one, I'm not the second one. I have my authority by the constitution, by the Syrian constitution, but at the same time, it's not enough to have your authority. It's very important to make dialogue with the widest circle of people you can to take your decision. And this is the way I work.
Mr. President, you know the rhetoric of regime change is headed towards you from the United States.
Really?
They are actively looking for a new Syrian leader. They're granting visas and visits to Syrian opposition politicians. They're talking about isolating you diplomatically and perhaps a coup d'etat or your regime crumbling.
How clear can you be?
I feel very confident for one reason, because I was made in Syria, I wasn't made in the United States. So I'm not worried. This is Syrian decision, should be made by the Syrian people. Nobody else in this world. So we don't discuss it in Syria.
What would happen, do you think, if there was an alternative to you? Who is the alternative to you?
Could be any Syrian, any national Syrian, and we have a lot. I'm not the only person who is eligible to be president. We have a lot of Syrians, so we don't have any problem about that. But no Syrian will be allowed to be president if he's made anywhere outside our borders.
Is that Assad?
That's Assad, yes.
That's Assad.
Yes. So, so the game is there. The game is there. Syria is in the target. And what is happening is that, again, going back to the gas pipelines, is that apart from that route, another route is being drawn by Russia, Gazprom, from the North Sea. It's called the Northern Stream. And by the way, that Northern Stream is just about to come into life in about a couple of months. It has been delayed by Finland, but Poland, by the orders of the United States, have tried anything and everything in their book to prevent this, but it did not happen. Maybe, yeah.
I just don't understand something here.
Yes.
You saying that this is a war between Russia is an imperialist power on a par with the United States?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, okay, if we were to go back to imperialism, maybe I should open that one up. In imperialism, you have the imperialists. Yes, true. These are the people, the countries that have done their revolutions, bourgeois revolutions, and they have gone over the world. They can export capital, they control and so on. But there is a weakening of the system. When this happens, new forces start to emerge. I'm saying that Russia is one of these forces that is forcing and using the cracks inside capitalism, using the cracks inside imperialist system to gain a little, space to itself. And Trump, thank you, is helping this a lot, because the contradictions within the ruling classes of United States is opening so big cracks that you can drive 18-wheel trucks through it. And Russia is exploiting this. Yes, it is exploiting it. First of all, Russia had relationships with Syria for a very long time. And United States has kind of, in this war, has kind of accepted that. Because in the beginning, when Assad was supposed to be toppled, when it did not happen, we can see that United States kind of pulled back a bit. Pulled back with the relationship of Russia. We're going to come to that. But one of the contenders here, as you can see, this is the picture from the US Embassy in Germany. When you talk about imperialism, you cannot talk only about United States. You have Germany. Germany is fully in Syria. Not only that, but Turkey. We're going to get into Turkey. Most of the weapon sales to Turkey is from Germany. And when the Gazprom puts those the gas lines, most of them go to Germany or Austria. Why? Because of the European gas dependence. Okay, so Germany is very well involved. Let's remember that. Trump went to Europe and threatened them, and there are sanctions, still sanctions today, for working with Russia on getting Russian natural gas. And Germany and the others said, "Go stuff it." They can't. They can't go with United States. Why? Because the gas coming from Russia is so cheap that they can't deny it. They can't refuse it. So
we prefer to think that Russia is exploiting the openings, not in order to continue in the traditional U.S. imperialist manner, but in order to reinstall the better social arrangements that happened under communism. We prefer to think that.
Well, we don't know.
Okay, so here's what I would suggest as a moderator, that hold back your questions and comments until he finishes.
Okay, so Germany is involved in this very much because they are dependent for energy, just like the First World War, just like the Second World War. Okay, Germany is being denied, and so the opening comes with Russia providing what Germany needs through other means than United States control. So it goes on that Assad must go. The imperialists have decided on that, and steps in Erdoğan. Now, when Gazprom was being built, or I keep on saying Gazprom, wrong, it's the company. But when the pipelines from Russia, several threads though. One is the northern stream, another one is the southern stream, and now there's another one that includes Turkey. When Russia had these projects, United States had to counter it. So they came up with a project called Nabucco. This is the project that will take the Azerbaijani, Turkmenistani, and then Iran natural gas and pipe it through Turkey. And there were two splits there after Turkey. Would it go through the Adriatic, through Greece, or would it bypass Greece? That's Turkey's preference. Bypass Greece by going through Bulgaria, Romania, I believe, and Hungary, all the way to Austria. So when these were happening, for many reasons, the Nabucco project failed miserably. That's the United States project. So that left the only player as the Russians, which proved itself today. Okay? So when fearing that Syria is going to become the hub of the natural gas distribution, so Erdoğan panics. This is yet another reason why Syria has to be attacked. Okay? Understanding that Syria is under attack, Assad takes several steps back actually. He's trying to reconcile. Instead of attacking in full, which Turkey wants, the Syrian army to go in and do slaughters. This is what Turkey is begging, and many plots to do that so that they can use that as an excuse, but Syria does not do that. So instead, whether you agree or not, he pardons the Muslim Brotherhood militants. Just to show that, hey, let's work together, type of thing. And with them being free and Turkey working very closely with them, sabotage acts start to happen. And you can see in Syria towns being blown up. Just yesterday, I don't know if you saw another big attack right on the border of Turkey, where Turkey controls. A huge attack happened and 13 people lost their lives. So similar attacks start to happen in Syrian cities. Now, what's Turkey plan? Turkish plan is that these people will leave the area, create a refugee crisis, and when they leave the land open so Turkey can go in freely. They don't want any resistance. They don't want people being there. So it would be simple cakewalk, as the United States said. Just move into Syria that way. This is one of the attacks that happened in Jizre al-Shur. The jihadists attacked the police stations and security points, and but one thing that was common is that they all kept on asking Turkey to intervene. As you can see, the stage is being set. Okay, so it is now Turkey is talking about humanitarian intervention. What shall we do? So many people are dying. We should go in and help them out. Okay.
Pretty cute.
Right at that time, there's a split in the Turkish ruling classes as well. One side is a cleric that lives in the United States called Fethullah Gulen, and the other side is Erdoğan. Erdoğan and Gulen has been lifelong friends and buddies for their projects and for their ideology. But they had a fallout, and that's still continuing today. Today, Turkey wants Fethullah Gulen, that lives in the United States, to be given back to Turkey with what's called the Red Bulletin, the Interpol Red Bulletin, saying he's a terrorist. And the reason why they fell out was that Erdoğan believes now it's his time. The whole Middle East worships him. So this is the time to act, go in, attack Syria, do this, do that, everything. And this is his time. But Fethullah Gülen says, no, no, no. Just play it low. Go under the radar. Organize more. And Fethullah Gülen has schools in more than 100 countries in the world. And I've said this before, Bill Clinton used to go to countries for official visits and ask those countries to please allow Fethullah Gülen to open schools there. But these are not schools like you would have right and left. Actually, in Fremont, we have 2 of his schools, charter schools. He gets about $460 million in revenue from the US government, okay? So this is the guy. So anyway, they fell apart. These are spy schools. Actually, Turkmenistan, Russia, several countries closed those schools because they said these are schools for spies. Okay? So, because of this fallout, the police organization in Turkey is held by Fethullah Gülen. So they recorded the government officials, Erdoğan and his officials, talking on the phone. And in one of the telephone conversations, the chief of intelligence says, "Look, we can just start this war. It's not a big deal. I'm gonna send 4 of my guys across the border, have them fire rockets at Turkey, and there you have it. We'll have the war." So this is, I'm trying to set the stage to what happened before Turkey attacked Syria.
You have about 30 minutes.
30 minutes left, okay, yeah.
Can I ask something really quick? The
No,
guy you're
but-
talking about,
Yeah.
the opposition to Erdogan, was he the one that was he part of Gezi Park? Was that?
Pardon?
Can you hold the question until
Gezi Park, I don't know what Gezi Park is.
Oh, that was a big.
Gezi
a
Park.
big-
Oh, Gezi Park, no.
He was not.
Erdoğan claimed he was, but
Okay,
no,
I'm
he's
just
not.
curious.
Yeah. Another plot happens in Hama and Laskia. That's very interesting. There is an uprising by the Brotherhood and the ISIS militants, and Turkey is so ready that the army is going to go in, destroy, everything there, take over the region, stay there, which will cause Turkey to, stage a protest and then maybe go in, claiming humanitarian reasons. But Syria and the foreign minister says, I want to discuss with you, and Syria says, just give me 3 days, just 3 days. And in those 3 days, the army goes in, clears up everything, and pulls back. Now the Turkish foreign minister goes there, and it's embarrassing. He has nothing to say, because he was prepared to say, your army is doing this and that and this and that. It is not there, and what the army has pulled back. So another plot. So now Turkey has to move, and it's under threat by the ISIS. Let's understand the relationship between Turkey and ISIS. ISIS cannot exist without the Turkish support there. Turkey is one of the parties that support it. We're going to come to slides there with their weapons, but the Syrian border is just open for ISIS. Daily, they come into Turkey at night or during the daytime. They have their homes provided by Turkey. They take refuge there, and then when it's time to attack, they just cross the border, do their sabotage, do their attacks, kill whoever they want to, and then come back as a refuge to Turkey. Why? Why is Turkey doing this? Yes, one reason is that, they are Muslims, and, that's what Turkey's ideological position is. But most importantly, Erdoğan uses ISIS as the thugs behind him to attack mostly the Kurds, but any opposition. Okay, so this is very important. Internally, ISIS militants are being used in Turkey for the benefit of, attacking. Turkish police does this, but Army does this, but they need much more help to control the Kurds. When Turkey started attacking its own cities, forget Syria, inside Turkey, Diyarbakir, Sur, Cizre, Suruç, all these places were hit with heavy artillery. I'm talking about cannons and tanks and everything. These are inside Turkey. The report after report was coming that people who did not speak Turkish, had long beards, but very well, usage of